Order the local planning agency meeting of November the 29th. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Chair Tompak,
Here.
Vice Chair Kurzman,
Yes.
Board Member Campo. Here. Board Member Fender,
Here.
Board Member Mayfield.
Here.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment cards?
No, sir.
I think you have one coming.
Oh,
I think it's a sewer thing.
yeah, that's a sewer.
I think it's a sewer thing. Oh, yeah, he's
That's
just
the
trying,
poll, I
okay.
think, so no, sir.
Okay, are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? If not, I'll accept the motion to approve the agenda.
Motion approved.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Kurzman,
Yes.
Board Member Campo. Yes. Board Member Fender,
Yes.
Board Member Mayfield,
Yes.
Chair Tompak.
Yes. That brings us down to the consent agenda. Any comments or a motion to approve, please?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Board Member Campo. Aye. Board Member Fender,
Aye.
Board Member Mayfield,
Yes.
Chair Tompak,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kurzman.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us down to item 7, which is public hearing, first reading of the ordinance. And we have 3 ordinances up for review tonight. First one is ordinance number 446, update land development regulations, accessory dwelling units. The town attorney, please read the ordinance title into the record. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, how are you doing? Want me to pass you down? No. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's very nice, thank you. Ordinance number 446 is an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point to update the land development regulations to be consistent with the 2022 comprehensive plan as required by FSS 163.3201 by amending Chapter 78 subdivisions, Article 1 in general, Section 78-7 accessory dwelling units, deleting Section 78-112 extension of River Road, amending Chapter 82 zoning, Article 4 districts and district regulations, Section 82-261 setback for accessory dwellings, guest houses or servants' quarters, and for other purposes, providing for severability, the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, codification, and providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. We do have some public comment on this one, at least I believe we do. John Nemi? Is your comments on 446, or?
Actually, specifically 447, 448.
Okay, because we're gonna get to those. Did you, was your comment, was Stephanie? We're together, same day. Okay. All right, I guess that brings us to Bonnie going ahead and making us, I'm sorry, Mr. Daniels, you're gonna go.
I just want to let you know that I'm down here. Bonnie and Heather want to make sure that they get all the information that you all come up with for the ordinances and any changes or tweaks you might want. So that's why we're doing the switch here on locations. I haven't given up being the manager. And Bonnie Landry come up.
And I'll look to Glenn for this. What we had come up with, the most reasonable way to go through the ordinance is holistically in sequential order instead of broken up by the ordinances. So I'm wondering if we can do that review part first before we do the individual ordinances, because it's going to be confusing the other way, trust me. Is that proper legally?
How would you like to do it? I would agree that it is
Do you-
more, it's easier to follow. My eyes stopped crossing after I did it that way. I was like, okay, I
I'm sorry,
understand
you
this.
want to go through the matrix first? Is that the idea?
Yes, so what our intent, and the reason why Heather's up there driving the computer, is we're going to alternate between the unified first we're going to do the PowerPoint to give you an overview. Then we're going to go through the unified document, which is what is up on the screen now, and it'll be all of the changes from all 3 ordinances combined, and we'll take your comments. And then you'll take the individual comments from per ordinance. And you'll see on this little matrix, it tells you which change belongs to which ordinance. But we're trying to go through it holistically first. Heather will be taking the notes on what changes need to be on each section. Then we will take the comments on the individual ordinances, because I think it would be easier that way. Because broken up, it's not sequential. Is that okay with y'all?
Mr. Campo?
I'm sorry, that nice chart that you have there is a part of which notebook? That's the first time I've seen it.
I have a copy in the back, too. It should have been in your packet.
In that, in your
It's
hand?
just a matrix. I was,
It's a matrix of all the changes.
Where was that? Because this is actually a postponement of the meeting from the hurricane, right?
Well, actually, it's all three. So the hurricane was only 446, but we prepared all three
So where
ordinances.
was that matrix spreadsheet distributed? Or how?
Should have been emailed.
did you-
I did
Is
not
that
get
part of our
You didn't get
packet, or? No.
Okay, let me, hold on one second.
I'll speak up.
I'm trying to figure out how you reviewed these ordinances without this matrix.
I didn't. Well, I didn't.
James.
My head would have exploded if I didn't.
Yes, can you receive?
got it.
Does anybody else need a copy?
Yes. Here.
Thank you.
How were we supposed to have received it?
We did have an email.
I'm not in charge of the packets. I got it out. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Bonnie, what I'm thinking here is, since apparently I'm the only one who got this thing, is that you can't go through it by the matrix. You're going to have to go through it by the ordinance because they haven't seen the matrix.
So could we go through the unified document and then come back to the ordinances?
Sure.
Okay, do you have a copy of the unified document?
Yes.
All of the ordinances?
Yes.
Okay, that's,
Bonnie, I'll grab an extra copy of that too.
anybody from the public?
I went through it. Yeah. Yeah. Please do.
Very organized.
Please do.
So
No. That's not it.
the purpose of the matrix is so that you can take notes as you go along, and then if you have any questions, we can come back to it. But we're going to go page by page through the unified document, which is all the changes to the LDR in sequential order. Then we'll come back to the ordinances because that breaks everything apart. But let me start with the presentation to give you an overview. you want me to go page by page, I will. Or if you have notes that you just want to go directly to, we can do it that way. Whatever is most organized for you, but we will follow the matrix.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
I'd like to go through every column on this page, and I love this format. I really wish that I had it before tonight, because I spent a lot of time looking at this other, which is just, very difficult.
Yep.
And I'd like to know why I didn't get it till tonight.
I don't have the answer to that, sir.
So April,
I didn't get it
okay,
either.
Bob? Yeah, so, well, it was. I'll find out. Okay, so let's see how much progress we can get going through it this way, okay?
Okay, agreed. Okay, so the first section is page 1. It's just changing the title from subdivisions to land development regulations, because your previous code had no land development regulations in its title. So we just changed the title. Any comments on that first line item? Okay. The next.
I'm sorry, I'm going to just jump in. Where does the minor and major come in? That comes up in another section?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And just for clarification, that's not major and minor site plan, it's major and minor subdivision, which is different, okay? Okay, so we're on item 2, page 1, title, new text, reference to this being the LDR. Any changes on that? And you'll see in the column, it'll tell you which ordinance that appears in. Okay. General findings, page 1. New text explaining that this implements Florida statute. It's just a reference. Any questions about that? Okay, also item 4, general intent and purpose. New text to provide an intent and purpose for the LDR.
I have a quick question. It's really just maybe a typo, but why is owners and in black? It's like that type, is that just a typo?
That should be underlined. That's a
In
typo.
red, okay.
So really, anything that's underlined, and that one was a typo, is all new text.
Okay.
So I didn't clarify that, but underline is new text, strike through is text we're removing. Okay, any comments on that? Item 5, applicability. This is just new text to show how this applies to new development and provides exceptions for unexpired approved plans and permits. So this is so that someone who already has an approved application doesn't have to be viewed under this code if there's a pending application. So that's just kind of, that's to cover us. Any questions on that? Also, pages 1 and 2, zoning in progress. We may want to pull that text up, Heather, because that is a completely new process. And the reason why we added that is you did declare a zoning in progress, but you really did not have that in your code. And other municipalities have a standard process to follow so that it's clear when that zoning in progress starts. And so this is the text that we have. It provides a duration of the zoning in progress. And as a reminder to you and to the public, a zoning in progress is basically putting a pause to applications if you're in the actively pursuing a change to your LDR. And this is so that you don't get a gray area where someone is in between the old code and the new code, and it makes it better for everyone. And you're currently in a zoning in progress. This just provides the process for that. So that's on pages 1 and 2. Is there any comment or question on that?
Can we just jump in without?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
Sure, go ahead.
This concept is newer and one that I'm not entirely comfortable with, because I think it's a government grab and it empowers the town manager to take on roles that we haven't had in the past. Would you agree with at least that statement?
That is a policy decision about whether or not you want the manager to be able to establish it and then have you approve it. But it's done different ways at different municipalities, so that could be reworded so that you establish as a commission the zoning in progress. But you would still need to define when that occurs. In the case of the city of Stewart, their process is as soon as it's an ad in the paper, it's in effect. Because otherwise you have people rushing in the door with applications because they know the code's changing, and you can't have that. It needs to be clear when it starts.
Right. The majority tonight of the ordinances regarding ADUs, lot splits, and land development regulations are really only affect a small subset of properties in Sewalls Point. Would you agree?
Lot splits and lot mergers, I don't think that would be the case, but
Okay.
because as long as they have a large lot, they could split it as long as it's split into lots that were
Well,
at least 30,000 square feet.
The ADU, you've got to be in excess of a half acre.
27,500
Right,
square
which is
feet.
about a half acre. And the lot splits, are, relatively larger properties. And then the land development regulations, you would probably agree, there's a very small subset of properties affected by those rules. Would you agree?
Development applications, yes, because you're
Okay.
mostly built out, that's true.
Okay, so would you care to guess how many properties in Sewalls Point are affected by land development regulations? I mean, in essence, how many lots would you have to be considered a development? 3 or more?
Yes.
Okay. So how many lots in Sewalls Point are that large, and how many properties are we really talking about here?
I don't know the answer to that.
Would you say a dozen or less?
Definitely.
Okay.
But-
Because it seems to me, hello, how are you? Hey, Eula. How are you, darling? Yeah. It seems to me those came up in particularly at a time that there was a large piece of property that was being developed. So, maybe it's not,
Which we want control over.
which, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, yeah. So, okay. So,
I'm sorry. I said that his concern was related to how many pieces of property are in the town that this affects, and my point was, we want control over those regardless of the number.
well, I don't
And-
think.
I
don't
mean,
think
our
that-
goal here is to not allow developers to take the direction of a miswritten ordinance that we have now just clarified and sneak into the, this zoning in progress concept is so that we realize that there's a problem, we have now fixed it, but it doesn't matter because they're getting grandfathered in, even though we've tried to fix a problem that we're aware of. And you're saying, there's a problem, but we want to let the developer go ahead and take advantage of the loophole that we unfortunately had in our ordinance. I don't understand.
I mean, we're going to get a little esoteric, but I happen to think that Sewalls Point's been a special place for 50 or 60 years.
Absolutely.
And has grown, and if you look at the building codes, it's, people are voting with their pocketbooks by continuing to invest.
People, not developers.
Okay.
But I do want to clarify that I was asked to do this in June, way before an application
Okay,
was in
okay,
place.
okay.
Now, this process of updating your LDR was always that was in the RFP that I participated in. The intent, and by law, you're required to update your LDR after you update your comp plan
Okay.
to make it consistent. And it was, unfortunately, it seemed that way maybe to you, but the application came in way after June.
So
It's always been the plan to update the
So
LDR.
there was a correlation, but it wasn't causal. It was just happened at the same.
Happened to happen.
Coinc-
And we've
okay.
had conversations with the developer's planner, and they're aware, and we've
Since
been
you're-
communicating.
Since you're more well-versed in zoning and progress than I am, I would like for you to point out to me, while we go through this, if there are ways to make it a little bit more forgiving to people that own property versus a little bit more restrictive. Some people want government control. Some people want private property rights. And I would just like for us to know, okay, here's what other municipalities do as far as like how much time they have and the responsibility of us to come back to them. And because this isn't something that we've done, all day, I would like for you to say, the city of Stewart does it this way, Martin County does it this way, and rather than start from the beginning, since zoning in progress is, I think, maybe an area where there's not unanimous. I don't think developers are out to sneak and take advantage of Sewalls Point.
Nor do I.
I don't think that. So I think we want to welcome. I think we want to welcome folks. I think we want to have a broader tax base, and I think we want to have an endearing, welcoming Mayberry type of spirit to people that are property owners.
Absolutely.
But you've helped me out in kind of whittling down. In order to have an ADU, you probably have to be in excess of a half acre, okay? And in order to be a land development regulation, you probably have to be in excess of an acre and a half, roughly speaking, wouldn't you say? Okay, so that at least helps format how many people are affected by these other things. Okay.
Right. But it's still important that you have a process, even if it's for one person, because not having a process can make it haphazard, and I don't think it's a good way to plan. I think you need a process for everything. But I do want to make sure everyone understands the zoning in progress that we have drafted can be changed. The time limit can be changed. How it's established can be changed. That's completely in your hands. But we did look at model ordinances from other municipalities. I just don't have that list in front of me.
No, that's okay,
But
I mean.
we didn't just make it up. We
No.
looked at other municipalities and other model ordinances to put one in place and put it before you for your input. But if you would like to way it's established, to be taken from the manager and put into commission, we can do that. If you want the time to be shorter, it can be shorter, it can be longer. It's just a starting point for us. at
Right,
this
okay.
point.
And then I'll let the others comment. I just like to have some calibration of the intensity of the government control versus the freedom of private property when we are having a conversation specifically on that topic.
Okay.
Dennis, great to see you, buddy.
So, and I do want to say, I've had conversations with the town attorney and other attorneys in his firm, and this is a legally defensible process. You're not the only person who does zoning in progress. It's done in other states. It's not just a Florida thing.
Well,
It's legally defensible.
prior to a month or two, we didn't do it.
We did.
We voted on it, and you and I voted, remember,
No,
like,
I'm
we kind of
saying-
lost the
I mean-
three
I
of
mean-
us, so
I mean,
it's
this
done.
This isn't something that we've had a lot of experience with in
Understood.
Sewalls Point. So that's why I want to be extra, careful with these types of things, because to me, it's uncharted territory. And so I'm asking you to point out things that might be, calibrated, since there is some division over the intensity of that new government power. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I would say if we're going to be talking about it tonight, I would focus on C, the procedure, because those are some of the areas, and Heather, if you can pull that up, that's on page 2. If you look at the procedure, right now, the declaration is an administrative order that the town manager makes. Okay, if you do not want it to be done that way, it can be implemented by a commission. The commission's going to approve it. But to get it started, it starts with the manager. But if you don't want it to start that way, we can change that.
Make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So I feel compelled to add a couple more comments here because of your implication of government control. So I would say that this is Mayberry, and this is a small town, and we are people that live in this town. We're residents here together. So the ordinances that we've had to date have allowed residents of the town, not the quote-unquote government that you're sort of building here. This isn't a big city. This isn't even Stewart. We do want to make sure that our town maintains the nicety and the aesthetic quality that we've come to know and love, and that I think you and I both agree on. And so I don't think we're that far apart. I think you're painting a picture of government control which doesn't exist. I think we have a town commission that is elected by the residents, who are indeed residents themselves, who want to be able to make sure that things that get built here adhere to that aesthetic quality that that you and I both love. So I wouldn't paint this more grandiose or governmental than it actually is, because this is indeed Mayberry, and to allow somebody to come in and take advantage of a loose requirement, once the residents, you and I, realize that, oh, we see a problem here, but now we can't correct it because you said, oh, they're grandfathered in. They can go ahead and do the thing that we as residents, not the quote-unquote government, don't want them to do. I mean, you do understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
I think we are, but we were kind of joking there, and it started sounding a little bit.
Well, there's a spectrum. I'm not saying you're at one extreme and I'm in the other. I'm just saying there is a spectrum. And
I'm just saying, painting this as a lot of quasi-governmental stuff is probably going a little farther to one extreme than.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot of lawsuits around people suing, listen, I'll just say, I'll use again on my soapbox, 8 years on this commission, okay? We've never been sued. We've never sued anybody except for the helipad, 8 years. And I think that, I take a lot of pride in that, because that's part of.
And I think this protects us from that, by the way.
Well, I think if you cut too close, you invite that, and I don't want to invite that, so we're good.
And the intent is to make it easier for both the applicant and the town. So it's not, if you're an applicant and you don't have a clear process to follow, it's difficult to submit a development application. And I want to make sure we looked at many, many codes. We did not just take it out of thin air. We took best practices and we put it in a code format, which was reviewed by the town attorney. But, of course, you can change how things are done. I mean, you can mark this up and send it back to me, or you can put your comments on the sheet if there's something that you don't like about the way it's written.
I just wanted, she was typing, I was noticing the note she was typing, so I just want to make sure that I got into the record, and I think she categorized it appropriately, so.
Oh, yeah, so she is,
By the way, she's typing.
so by the way, that we're doing this on purpose because we want to make sure that every comment is recorded and that you, the commission, is heard and the public is heard. That's why Heather's up here. That's why they switch places.
Well, I just wanted to ensure that there was a counterpoint to that, the original comment, and there it is, it's fine.
And we will send this matrix back out to you so that you can look at it and mark it up if you'd like. Okay, so are we ready?
Couple more.
Do you have any?
I'm sorry, Board Member Kurzman has a.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, pretty much, I think where Frank left off in that sense, where, there's a reason we put these in place is a lot of it had to do with flooding, especially that one big property that's on the north side. I know there was a lot of flooding during a couple of rains we had, and to go add more damage to this, and this is something the taxpayers are going to have to pick up. Like we have already going up on South Sewalls Point Road, because things weren't done properly when we could have. It's something that developers should have done, which they didn't do, and they weren't responsible. Now it's happening. We all have to pay for these mistakes. Putting basements in homes, which should never have been should have been prohibited from the beginning. And then also allowing the ground to be higher than the road, where you have flooding in those areas. It just, right now, we're just trying to make things better so we could drive our cars home, pass through our roads safely. And the key part is keeping the roads safe. Also, we're spending right now tens of millions of dollars to prevent flooding. And, this is kind of why we put these in place. And it's important, every inch, there's no place else to store water anymore. We're out of room. We're at the end of the road. So that's why this is in place. And I agree wholeheartedly with what we've done on this.
Board Member Mayfield, do you have?
Yes. I think we were kind of commingling at the beginning there, the conversation about the land development regulations in general. I totally support redoing all them and getting them in order. And I agree with the planner that procedure that's already there is better to have in place. So when questions do arise, there's a clear-cut answer. And then the thing that we're specifically having an issue with is zoning in progress, which is one page of like 20 pages. maybe to some of the commissioners' points, I don't know if Commissioner Campo would suggest taking out the zoning in progress. Isn't that kind of what we can suggest what we want? Or maybe we wanted to have the town manager not be authorized to initiate it? Or if the three commissioners who were supportive of it before like it the way it is, then we would leave it. But that's kind of the direction you're looking for, correct?
But I strongly say you should have a process for zoning in progress. I firmly believe that, because I think that that was why some of the commissioners were not comfortable when we declared it, because there wasn't a process. But
That's
now
true.
there's a process that you would follow in your LDR of how you would establish it. You may never use it, but you may.
Yeah.
It just depends on if you change your LDR again, and if that would affect applicants.
Okay. I'm good with that. I just was curious about the town manager
I think
aspect.
we should have a procedure, but who runs it, who declares it, that's all a policy decision of the commission, and that's what Heather's taking notes on. So I would say you would focus on the procedure aspect of it.
Okay, and
But-
again, I've got to jump in, because this is a new power that we are exercising, okay? So that's why we're getting through the specifics, and I'm okay with that. But this is a newer process, and I just want to feel comfortable with it. And as you were starting to point out, with the procedures, there's different, let's say, levels of control. And so if you would say, look, it's A, B, or C, or 1 to 10, or, try to calibrate those. What you've got right now, based upon, we basically already implemented it according to,
You're in it right now.
we're in it, yeah.
Yep.
So it's hard to kind of like back out of that, but I still want to be familiar with, the procedure. So what in the C, page 2, procedure, what are different levels of, I'm just going to say government control, I don't know what else to call it. What are different levels that you were starting to point out, as far as, you said procedure was a good place to focus on?
Right. And how you establish it. So in other words, you could say, we're going to advertise it at the meeting, and we're going to talk about it. The danger in that is, people see it in the agenda, and they start putting their applications frantically, because that happened in Georgia from one of the attorneys she was telling me. The city of Stewart has it as soon as they put the ad in the paper. That's when it starts, and then they approve it at the meeting. So that's one way of doing it. Or you could just have the town manager make this administrative order that you approve later at your meeting. Or deny it. I mean, so you still ultimately have control, and I think Susan was the one that commented on that you as the commission would have to approve that administrative order.
At the first meeting thereafter, after the town manager does it, right?
But you could get to the meeting and say, I don't want to do a zoning in progress, and then it doesn't
Right.
happen.
See, in the past, in an imaginary town that none of us have heard about, there was a town manager that had a lot of tendency for a lot of control, okay, just in pretend land. And so to give that town manager that type of power might be something that, might work well, but might not work well. And so I don't know what would be another way of, just wait, we meet every 2 weeks. Is there another method where the town manager recommends and waits for the commission?
That is what it is. Because it's an administrative order that you must approve. If you don't approve it, it doesn't happen.
No,
So you still ultimately are approving
But
it.
the town manager can do it before, unilaterally, without the town commission meeting, before the meeting, right?
It's a temporary order because you have to approve it.
Okay, but
So what it would do, it would start
the
the
answer is
clock.
yes.
Yes, what?
The answer is yes, that the town manager can do it unilaterally before a commission
The only risk
That's
is if we
incorrect.
don't hear about
on a temporary basis, or what you just said.
Okay, so
Right.
if he has an administrative order and it's
Administrative
heard at
order.
the next meeting,
Right.
he really doesn't have ultimate control because you would deny it. So maybe there might be one week where somebody can't put in an application.
Right.
But it's really not.
Okay.
It's not ultimate control because you have to approve that order.
It's ultimate control for up to 13 days, basically. Right?
Okay.
I guess that's the answer, yes,
Yeah.
if that's what you're looking
Yeah.
for.
No, it's not what I want you to tell me,
Well,
this is-
another approach would be, as soon as you put the ad in the paper, it starts, and then you approve it at the meeting, or you don't approve it.
Okay, all right.
But who put your agenda together? The town manager. So, I mean, it's really 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because either way, you have to have someone start the process, and then you have to approve it.
The risk is that the order never comes to us. That's the risk.
Okay, I'm good. I'm trying to get the lay of the land with something that's new, and I'm learning more as you're
Okay,
defining
good,
this. So
good.
I'm not trying to, come at you, but some of the information needs clarification, and you're helping do
Gotcha,
that. Okay,
gotcha.
good.
And we could give you other ordinances between now and the next meeting, so you can see how other ones are written. Or we could, or I can rewrite it now and get it back to you for the second
Well,
reading.
I'm
It
just
just
gonna-
depends on what you don't like about it.
I'm just going to, interject. I want you to, just for Commissioner Kurzman has been saying for a while, that this is going to prevent flooding, or that there's something, oops, my dad's in the hospital, so, sorry.
Sorry about
It's
that.
not him. As we come along something that affects road flooding, would you point that out as we go through your matrix?
We will.
Okay.
And we do reference the new water quality retention
Okay.
in this ordinance.
All right, so
We do.
I'll lean back and let us try
Okay.
to get at
Okay.
least a C.
Okay, but before we move on, is there something in particular about the zoning in progress that you would like us to revise? Or would you like us to come back and give you more of a detailed presentation on it? I mean, where would you like to go with that?
We're in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we made that decision already.
Yeah.
So-
We beat this.
Well,
beat this
But
horse
no one has
pretty
told
much
me
dead.
how to change it.
you know what, we got a long way to go. This is an important code, okay? So I've got a question on number 3, just to the north of C, okay? The scope of zoning in progress shall be narrowly drawn to affect only those activities addressed by the proposed amendment, and the duration shall be the minimum necessary to allow reasonable time for consideration and implementation. I'd like to have a number there rather than reasonable time. I mean, you're asking, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I mean, reasonable in my book is, when I'm like, got my crew and my tractors and everything to go in, that's,
The thing is, it could be something that's very simple, and so it could be a quick fix. Like, even, when you have to take into account, when you change the ordinances, you have to publicize the ordinance, and you can't publicize the ordinance, you have to put it in the paper. It takes a week to get it into the paper, then it's got to be out a week, and it has to be seen, I think it's 2 weeks before you have the meeting. So, there's like 3 weeks right there. So even with this zoning in progress, we didn't do the 90 days, we did 120 days because of the holidays. So we took that into account. But if you put a number in here, you're not going to have that flexibility. So I think when the manager comes to you and says that this is something I need you to ratify, and here's the train of thought, just like we did when I came to y'all with this situation that we didn't have the LDRs in shape yet. And let's do all that. And that's why we all talked about, originally, I want to do it in 90 days. I don't want to hold things up. I think we can get out there and do it. But when you take into account the holidays and you take into account the publications, the law ties your hands. So we can't get it done as early. Now, I think this is probably the earliest you could do any type of an ordinance change is what we did, because we really pushed this. Because I told you all that I didn't want to tie this up. We wanted to get through this and get it done. And so, there could be something that's maybe a state law change or something else, and we got to go back and address it, and it might take a study. It could, involve something else that's out of our control, so we might need to take it longer.
Got it.
We don't know. So I think by putting a specific date in here or time frame, it's going to matter where you are.
Got it.
Is my point.
Yep.
Okay, well, again, I've made my point, and you've answered it, but,
yeah.
okay.
And you want it to be the least amount of time, because obviously the point of a zoning in progress isn't to stop everybody. It's to put a timeout, so you get the code in place, and then but it's also narrowly defined, meaning if we're changing, like, I'm just trying to think, something that wouldn't affect an application, you could still be taking the applications, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
So it's narrowly defined, and that's defined by your the title of your ordinances. That's why.
Numbering on
and
Part
which are
C needs a
published.
touch.
Pardon me?
Numbering
Yes.
on Part C needs a touch. It's skipping number 3, just it's minor.
Typo.
Oh, that's, okay. We have a numbering issue on C.
It's minor, yeah.
Yep, okay. So are we ready to move on to definitions? Yep. Okay. So definitions, the only change on that one is we updated the numbering, we updated the definition of site plan. Construction drawings, we put signed and sealed by an appropriate licensed professional, so it would cover people other than engineers who are putting in applications. We no longer have major and
Okay,
minor.
let's go back, okay? Because this is an example of everything just gets glossed over, okay? You change the definition of site plan. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that, okay? Signed and sealed by an appropriately licensed professional.
Yep,
But we just glossed over that, okay? That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
okay. It's written that way so that if you're not an engineer, but you're an architect, for example, you could put in a plan. It's not just engineers who put
Do
it.
other municipalities, and I think...
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Does Stewart and Martin County have those same requirements? Because my information is no.
Are you saying that they have engineer in there instead of licensed professional?
No, it's the signed and sealed by an appropriately licensed professional.
And I think I took that out of
Have to be
Florida
an
statute.
engineer, right.
I'm almost certain I took that out of
Okay,
Florida
well,
statute.
let's revisit that, and
Okay.
if you can, Heather, check on that, because
Okay.
that's information.
So you would
I've-
like us
I've- I was involved in a construction project, and when you go signed and sealed by an appropriate, I mean, that's like, a big deal, and it increases liability, and people don't like to do that, so rather than just saying, well, we just changed the definition, I think we need to know that we're making it tougher for people to do developments, and you might not want to call that control, you might want to call it, oversight.
Seems like we're
but-
making it easier.
No, because you're requiring,
We're not requiring an engineer, we're requiring an appropriate licensed
So
professional.
that would cover
makes it easier.
architects or planners, for example. But I do believe, and I don't think the building official's here, but I think that's required by the Florida Building Code, which you also have to follow. So we didn't just we looked at state law, we looked at Florida Building Code, and this is how other people are writing it, so that it covers other people who can sign and seal plans. Engineers are not the only people who can do that. It would cover your architects. And
Heather's made the note, I'm good.
okay,
Thanks.
so good. So
But
you
I just
understand
don't
it.
want to gloss over something that really is significant.
But we will get you the genesis of that. She has put that in.
Okay, it's hard to get in here. Maybe some clarification on what sealed means. I think that's really the word. Appropriately licensed professional. Basically, most people are appropriately licensed, so I think it's really just sealed. Maybe some clarification.
stamp.
Okay,
It's-
Landscape architects have a stamp, architects have a stamp,
okay.
licensed surveyors have a stamp. They all have a
Okay.
special seal to prove.
And
that
then
they are
at the
licensed.
end, something separate. That's good. Showing the details of construction for the installation of the proposed subdivision improvements. I was trying to see why subdivision was included, because this section is land development regulations. Maybe we want to change that, because it used to be subdivisions.
I think you're right.
Okay,
Yeah, we want to change that.
okay. The end
Remove
of.
the reference to subdivision improvements and say proposed development.
Okay.
So where it says subdivision, it should say proposed development, and that makes it broader. There you go.
I know this is a loose interpretation, but the difference between compilation and audit,
Yes,
okay, is significant in accounting?
yes.
Okay, so it's significant here, signed and sealed. It's a higher degree of credential.
Yeah, I was asking what sealed meant
Right, okay.
exactly,
But
as
I'm-
opposed to a letter sealed. I was like, do they mean
No,
like
it's
in a
like the
letter or the
stamp,
actual
it's the stamp.
stamp? That's what I was trying to
But
clarify.
like I said, even to get a building permit, you have to be licensed. You can't just, well, I guess you could do an owner build on a building permit. Right? Right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're changing any reference to subdivision to proposed development. We removed major subdivision because we have revise the process, and there's no longer subdivision, minor and major. As we had said in our presentation at the beginning, one of the things we were asked to do is to clarify lot line adjustments, lot mergers, and lot splits, because those are the kind of things that would happen in a fully developed community. The lot line adjustment is a very important one because it makes it simple for some, if you have a piece of property and you just want to change where the lot line is, that is an administrative thing, and that other municipalities do it. I think Port St. Lucie does that. But it is a good thing to have in there for minor changes, administrative changes. We added subdivision means the planting of real property into 3 or more lots, parcels, tracts. We added that definition. Or I think we might have moved it. Anyone have any questions? Any more questions on the definitions section?
Nope.
Okay. We removed all the language, let's see, in section 78-2, because we changed the process. So none of that's going to be, part of the process anymore.
Page 1 done.
That's on page 3, and which line is that? We're on number 8. We're still on page 1 of the, the spreadsheet.
That's what I thought when I didn't have this.
What?
What you're thinking now. This is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And as the manager said, we did it in a very timely manner. It was a whole lot of work.
Only
So
6
thank you
to
for
go. Let's rock.
recognizing that.
It is.
Okay. Number 9 is just a renumbering. Any questions about that? Number 10 was on page 4. And we removed language from the old subdivision process because that's replaced now with a site plan approval process. So it's just changing the process. Any questions on that? Okay. Number 11, construction of accessory dwelling units. We updated the language to remove antiquated term. In some places it said servants' quarters. We took all that out and we changed it to accessory dwelling units or guest houses. We also updated so that to add that a guest house can be done via building permit, providing that there's no existing guest house, as I said before. And it's currently in your code, you must have 27,500 square feet of land to add a guest house, and it's always been like that.
Okay. So the ADUs are an issue that I find of interest, and I'm wondering why, if someone has 6 acres, why are we saying they can't have more than one ADUs?
Well, first of all, it's in your comprehensive plan.
Okay, but isn't that what we're doing now?
No, you've already approved, your comprehensive plan is adopted.
Okay, so if someone has a 6-acre tract and they already have one ADU, they are prohibited from having another ADU.
That is correct.
See, I think that's not right.
That was the comp plan time. We talked about this a lot during the comp plan.
Okay, and I
There
had,
was a reason why.
and I
Yeah.
had questions about it. Yeah, what was the reason?
You don't recall?
Yeah, I recall.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
I'd say the vast majority of residents believe that Sewalls Point is a single-family residential home neighborhood, and that is what the vast majority of people, I've never heard of anyone who doesn't want it to be that.
Okay, so my lot is probably 0.4 acres. It's a postage stamp. It's 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, but it's on 0.4 acres, okay? So if someone has 6 acres, they're only allowed to have 2. Think of it, the main house and 1 house. You know, whether it's LDR, comp plan, whatever, I don't think that's right. And,
How many houses would you like?
It's already done. It's already done.
well,
That's already
hey,
done.
but you know what? Now we're doing this, and now we're talking about it. And there it is under number 11.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you're not going to violate the comp plan by putting something different in the ordinance.
Well, I mean, there's more than one way to skin the cat, but, you know,
It would require a comprehensive plan amendment.
okay. Oh, and that's the other thing, you know? Now, that's gonna be the big mantra, because we were told this is a living, breathing document, you can make changes anytime.
You can.
But now that I bring it up, oh, You can't do that.
Yes,
No,
you
we
can.
didn't say
We'd
you
have to
can't.
get,
You can
we'd have to
certainly
get
do it.
commission approval. Do we
Well,
all want to do it? I don't want to do
Hey,
it.
we have this beautiful plan for this multi-level mansion,
Okay.
and we think we should go on. Well, okay, we're a small community, we like it, let's do it.
So for the folks that have, you know, going back to our original conversation, that have more than an acre and a half, you know, who want to have their kids or their mother-in-law or whatever on their property, this is, you know, this is applying to them. And to me, that's Sewell's point, is living close to your family. So to me, the 12 or so people that have got, you know, large pieces of property, I think they're being adversely affected by this entire exercise.
Okay, they could subdivide. It's one guest house per single-family home.
Subdivide,
So they
right.
could subdivide, and they could put 6 houses on there
then
and
they
6
have-
guest houses.
And then they have all this additional regulations for that. So I don't know that that's necessarily a less burdensome process.
I do want to point out, though, your LDR already had 1 guest house per single-family home, even before you updated the comp plan.
Okay,
It's
but,
always
you know-
been like that.
I don't think this, any way this is written limits great ideas or proper development. Even we have some tracts of land that are huge, that the residents might want to build multiple structures on. This doesn't mean that they cannot do that. They just have to come in with a plan of how it's going to be done.
Well, I mean, they would even if it was just a building permit, because, you know, if it was the ADU, they require a building permit anyway, right?
Right, and prior to that, you'd have to come to the commission and get permission to get a guest house. So it does make it easier.
Right,
It's-
okay.
And that
Well,
was the
I just
intent.
think that, you know, everyone that has a piece of property that they may want to have more than one ADU needs to be aware of what's happening. Maybe it wasn't, you know, spotlighted when it was on the comp plan. Maybe there are new people that are in the room that are adversely affected, that weren't in the room before. I just want to shine the spotlight. I'm all about transparency and shining the spotlight, okay?
And I want to make it very
Done.
clear, it was done in June, way before that application was even talked about, before the property sold.
And I want
So
to
it
be
was
very
not,
clear that it's not designed to adversely affect them.
Yes, that's exactly right.
it
Right, if
provides
they
a
get
process.
commission approval, they can do it. This is just guidelines, and we did the comp plan. Oh, I mean, we're just like really wasting time.
Commissioner Mayfield, that weren't present at that time. So I'm giving them extra notice that this is something-
Needlessly.
No, not needlessly.
Yes, needlessly.
Because they're not.
You're creating a sense of angst where none exists.
Okay, okay,
That's my theory.
okay.
And I believe all of us are available to talk to anyone, should they want to
Absolutely.
call us. Like, I am super available.
And we've
Call me.
spoken,
I don't,
they have called me and I've returned their call. I have spoken to the planner for that project that you're referring to. So it's open communication. However, Heather, make a note that we need to show them that it was in this LDR before.
I don't need that.
Okay,
I
you don't
need
need
that.
it, okay.
No,
But it was. Okay, so we,
I have actually just a normal question about this section. You changed the line "or servants' quarters upon the subdivision." I understand getting rid of the servants' quarter by requesting resident, but you said by showing that the lots are comprised. I feel like I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like by showing that the lots is really kind of vague and not. When I read it, I was like, what does that really mean by showing, I mean, maybe that,
demonstrating maybe a bit better term,
or,
providing evidence
yes,
might be a better term.
something. I felt
Okay.
like I mean, you could walk someone out there and be like, look,
No.
this is big enough, so something to really
Providing evidence is a better way of putting it.
quantify that. And there was a little typo after "are comprised," it should be "of." And then that was really it. I didn't care for the phrase "by showing," and I think it's somewhere
Should
else.
be comprised of, and I think instead of showing, we'll say demonstrating.
Proving? I mean, proving, like with a survey, how particular does it get with something like this? Do you have to show, I mean,
You'd have to have a survey.
Okay,
The
so-
survey would prove that.
yeah, so I think proving,
So providing evidence via,
yeah,
Survey?
something, I don't know, I just thought that was vague.
okay, no,
I'll leave it to the legal and planner.
okay. So are we moving on to number 12?
Yep.
Number 12. This is a new section, and it just basically outlines the duties of the building official, and I saw that in other regulation, and I thought that was a good thing to include. It shows his authority. And we did talk to Jack about it, that we purposely gave the building official or designee in there because you do not have a planner on staff, you have a consultant. So that gives Jack the authority to, if it's something that he needs a planner to look at, he could go through the manager and hire a planner. But it provides him that authority unless he's unable to review it, if it's something planning. Does that make sense? Number 13 is also the duties of the building official.
I had a quick question on that one.
Okay?
Just because I'm a wise guy, I'm trying to figure out why 4 inches of encroachment versus 6 inches or a foot, or where'd that come from?
It came from another municipality, but most municipalities do have a threshold, but that threshold could be anything you would like. Or you could say you don't want him to have that authority. But it does prevent, allows him some certain authority if there's a challenge with the lot and it's 2 inches or 4 inches, whatever it is. But we did use another municipality for that threshold. But I do believe St. Lucie County has a threshold for that. We could look at other counties and other cities and see what threshold you're most comfortable with.
Yeah, I would just like to know what the other ones are thinking about there, because
half a foot.
4 inches just seems, wow, where'd that come from?
Seems a lot, yeah.
That's less than half.
And I want to say it came from Sanibel, but I have my model
I want
codes.
to be like them.
We used many. I don't want to just say we looked at many municipalities. Okay.
Thank you.
But Heather, we'll find out where that came from. And would you like me to look at other thresholds to compare it with? So that you can say, it gives you a feeling of whether or not that's too much or too little?
Well, I'm not sure to be honest with you, I'm not sure what makes a whole lot of sense here, but that's why I'd be interested in seeing what else is out there.
Okay, yeah. But I think it just gives him it makes things easier, because if it's just like inches, and he has somebody has a challenging lot, he could have that authority to still give them a building permit. So
Understand.
other municipalities do that. Okay. Are we moving on?
Yes, please.
Okay, so now we're on number 14 on the matrix. We removed the minor subdivisions because the process is now site plan approval. That's similar to well, we basically changed the name to planning and subdivision of land from minor subdivisions. So this does provide, the section 10 is new, and it provides a process to subdivide land within the town. There's a whole bunch of rules there. I don't know if you want me to read it out loud or go line by line, or
No. that's fine.
if it makes sense to you, but, obviously the purpose, protect the river, protect the Indian River Lagoon. There's a reason why we're doing this. Are we ready to move on to 20?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, me too. Go ahead.
Yes.
7810, C, the plat approval and recording as prerequisite to further activity. Just clarification, the preliminary plat is obviously before approval, so you're saying that nobody could, before it's final, no one can kind of sell their
3 or more.
hope to have a lot or their potential lot, kind of, is that what you're saying?
You
That last
cannot
one?
read, and I believe this is also Florida law. Florida law says your local municipality needs to approve a plat before it can be filed with the state.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that's why it's written that way. It's not that we're trying to overstep, making everything come to the commission, but it's required by Florida law and the Florida law related to plats.
Is that the same thing for the requirement for the 2 boundary surveys? Is that
Yes, I believe.
part of the Florida statute as well? I was wondering why it was 2.
Which one are you on?
7814-3.
Oh, we're on 14, okay. Hold on.
I'm sorry, did I jump ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
7814,
Number 3.
I believe that's Florida law because I do reference Florida statute 177, but we can check on that and make sure it's written that way. But it either came from the Florida law or it came from the model ordinance that I used. No, wait a minute. The 2 boundary surveys is so that we have 2 copies, one for the building department and one for me. It's written that way for when you submit. We have 2 copies, one for the building department, one for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm wrong about that. It's the things that you submit are for us, so we have a process.
So it's really just 2 copies, not 2 separate boundary surveys.
Yes, and I think we definitely need to change that to 2 copies of boundary surveys, or 2 full sets.
Of the boundary survey,
Huh?
Yeah.
one survey.
Yeah.
1 survey, 2 copies, 24 by
copies of one
36. Yep.
Bonnie, can we go back to that one I had asked about before?
Oh, wait, I want to make sure. So Glenn, you said 1 boundary survey, comma, 2 copies
Or you could say 2 copies of.
Of one-
Of the boundary survey.
of the boundary survey. Gotcha. Good catch. Okay, we're going back.
To 7810C, that last sentence, because what I had asked about, it looks like the last sentence says, in addition, no preliminary plat shall be relied upon to sell, transfer, or negotiate the sale or transfer of any land within the subdivision, versus right before it says, no lot shall be sold from the subdivided land. So what does that mean by shall be relied upon to sell, transfer, or negotiate the sale? I don't understand that sentence.
I believe that it has to be approved by the commission and approved through the state process before you can record it. And you can't do that until it's been accepted, but I'll let.
What do they mean by relied upon?
Well, if I'm going to buy property from you, I can't rely on a preliminary plat that you prepared or your engineer prepared until the town's accepted it. I can't later sue you or the town and say, wait a minute, this was the preliminary, particularly the town, this was the preliminary plat. Until the town approves it,
Right.
it's,
So I guess how is it different from the sentence before, just meaning that one, it's fine, I'm quibbling, but right before it says no lot shall be sold from the subdivided land, and the beginning says plat approval and recording is prerequisite, until the final plat is properly approved and recorded, no lot shall be sold from the subdivided land. In addition, no preliminary plat shall be relied upon. And I don't understand preliminary plat shall be relied upon of any, it could be beyond my, I'll
give an
ask you
example.
later if it.
No, I give an example of another city where there was a preliminary plat dealing with roads and who was going to be responsible for the roads. But the final plat was different. And so you wouldn't want to, if you're a developer,
Okay.
you can't rely upon a plat that says that the city's going to be responsible for doing a certain thing. And at the end of the day, the city says, no, the developer's responsible for
Okay.
building the
So
road.
preliminary is just,
It's just a
okay,
draft.
all right, okay.
And it's just to
That's fine.
cover you, in case someone says, well, I saw this plat. Well, you can't rely on that. We're kind of giving you
Okay.
notice up front that not to rely on that until the town
Okay.
has approved it.
Sorry for the delay. Thank you.
Do we have any more comments on plat? Okay. And I just changed the deposit from 500 to 750 because it hadn't been updated since, I want to say 1977 or something. So obviously, and the deposit is a deposit. But the way the code is written, and I talked to your manager about this, is to make sure that you get paid for any outside services by reviewer from consultants such as engineers, legal, and planning. That's to make sure you get your money back. That's how it's written.
Bonnie, I'm sorry, because I didn't have the matrix before. My notes are a little bit not necessarily following, but can I ask you a question? It's 7811. Are we there yet, or do you want to wait?
I think we are there.
Okay.
I think we are there.
So my question is 7811E, and it kind of ties into 7812D. Once a tract of land has been approved and received a lot split, it shall not be further subdivided. I'm taking you mean split, and why would that not, why can't they do that?
Well, because they could keep doing lot splits and build a subdivision that way. Just keep doing the same thing over and over. Most municipalities, or all the ones I've worked with, have a limit. You only get one lot split, period. You
Okay.
can't just keep splitting.
Okay.
But what if
Then-
there was an extenuating circumstance, excuse me for interrupting, because I read that too, like, why should that be final? Why can't they come to us and, without changing the whole LDR? Like, you're determining you can only have one lot split. Well, maybe a family inherits a big piece of property, it's, it's
It's already been split.
the brother and the sister, and then maybe they want to give some to the kids or something like that. Like split it again. You're saying you cannot do that?
You can file a development application, but you
See-
can't do it via lot split, which is an administrative process. So you'd have to come and do a site plan
A
application.
development, I can't. I just
app-
want, I
development
just want
application.
kids to come back and live with me, I mean, let's face it, no. We have a great community, and we should be a place that welcomes families. And to me, there's too much oversight and control of preventing that from happening.
Every municipality I've ever worked for, you get one lot split. Martin County, City of Port St. Lucie, St. Lucie County. It's in literally every code that I know of, that I've worked with. I don't know if Glenn, do you have the one-time split?
I can't think of any offhand, no.
Because again, you could avoid the site plan application process by keep doing lot splits administratively, and then you're not going through the site plan review process.
So what about the, once it's been consolidated, I got one of my glasses, you can't split it up again. Why couldn't you do that?
We could
mean-
take
What
that
number is
out.
that, Kaya?
That's
7812D.
12. That just came from the model ordinance I used.
Okay.
But
I mean,
if you would like them to be able to, once they've consolidated, to resplit it, as long as that's legally allowed, I don't mind taking that out.
You might want to limit it to one time. I don't know if you want lots to combine, split, or it may not matter to you.
Could you speak into the microphone, because we can't hear you?
Sorry. You may want to limit that to one time. So for example, if I consolidate a lot and then I want to split it, and then I want to consolidate it again, and then I want to split it again, I mean, that seems a little bit much. So you might want to have some limit on how often you can do that.
well, if you were going to, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to every single thing you just said, but I would think that if we kept the lot split one, that would prevent splitting and splitting to make it smaller. But I mean, if you wanted to consolidate and split, I mean, I'm quibbling here, but I didn't understand why you couldn't make it big, then make it small. I don't know.
You wouldn't want it to just be perpetual, though, I don't think.
You could always say shall only be eligible for one lot split.
I'm okay with, I mean, unless, I'll think about that one, but I don't understand why you
Okay, so
couldn't
we'll make
make
a
it big,
note
make
that
it
we
small,
need
make it big, make it
to
small.
look at lot mergers and the limitation of how many times you can merge and split. And I'll look at other.
I'll look into that too. I mean, the
I
other
could
one makes a
look at
little
other
more,
municipalities and see how it's written. And if you want, I think I need to talk to Glenn and Susan
Okay.
about that one,
okay.
to make sure that
Yeah.
we're on the same page.
The other one makes more sense because that, you could,
You could just
skip the
build
whole-
a subdivision by doing
Right,
lot
right, right.
split after lot
Okay.
split. And the intent is that people go through the process and
Right.
do a site plan
Okay.
application the right way.
don't worry, I don't have that much more. I'll go quicker because I'm ready to go too.
Okay, so administrative changes to plats and lot line adjustments, is everybody good with that? That's just to make it, if you own both pieces of land and you want to move where the property line is, and it doesn't create a non-conforming lot, you have at least the right amount on both sides. We actually had, that has happened here since I've been here. And you really want a very administrative process for that. You don't want them to have to go to the commission for that. Right? We good with that?
Yeah, and Bonnie, the definition of minor change, is that really in the first paragraph of 7813?
You didn't check?
These changes include revisions of ownership or mortgage company, minor lot line adjustments, and maybe that should just say lot line adjustments.
Okay, I just
Take
wanted-
out the word minor, because
I
a
did-
lot line, it is minor, and you're moving a line.
Okay.
So under 7813, we're taking out the word minor, and it just says lot line adjustments. And that administrative approval is documented by the building department and transmitted to the town clerk along with the revised plat once it is submitted, et cetera. And I took that right from another municipality model ordinance. Are we ready to move to 7814? Plat approval procedure?
Can I just comment, Mr. Mayor? I was just approached by a resident who said they put in a comment card and they've got a health condition that they've got to leave, and they would like to have 3 minutes to talk. Miss Holly Hoover. Would that be something that we could take a break?
No
Because
problem. Please come forward.
I'm very sorry, Bonnie, for that, but it's our resident, and we want to hear, and she's got an injury.
Thanks for the gap. I have surgery in not very long, a day or so. I wanted to come up and talk to y'all about, and good evening, about a couple things. One, the road conditions, as the general conditions of the road, talk to you about it as an engineer and how I injured myself. And that's, as all these curbs, these high back curbs get matched, it's going to be very difficult, and I've articulated this many times, that it's going to be very difficult to keep the grades. And so the project that you anticipate is going to be constantly undermined with trucks driving over things, with, all kinds of activities. I've had a lot of trucks driving over my property and driving over the drains that have been put in, creating many ruts, and this is very documented with your police department and everything else, and, investigated completely. Not much has been done. I think they cited one person. I encourage the town to create a fining situation of these trucks that come in without MOT and that do all these other things, and that would be a good source of revenue and a great deterrent to damaging property. Around these yard drains that are going to have anywhere from a 4-inch plus drop-off, people are going to trip over them, bicycles, trying to get out of the way, whatever it is. Some of those drains need bollards. So I encourage the town, I'd like to articulate that. I had the town manager come out. The town engineer was very dismissive about it all, and that is not proper engineering. And those safety issues have been brought up before in the alignment of the road, and that was changed because of the safety issues I brought up. And I'm not against the elevation of the road. I just want proper engineering on everything. Anyways, separate from that, the other matter is the septic to sewer. I caution the board here. I caution the board of Stewart. I caution the board of the Martin County Utilities in the county of any misappropriation of ethics to do with advisement versus billing services for engineers. This has gone on a long time in this county, and that the vacuum system was in the 5-year CIP here. The county would have contributed much more and done if there had been strength here. And I tried to get involved, but I was rebuffed. And I offered many services free, rebuffed. Tried to do all kinds of things. And the way this is being piecemealed, like the road, is a huge mistake, and it's an ethical violation. The county has a requirement of 300 units. There's 700 and something down here. The piecemealing is against the law. It was against the law on the road. It's against the law on this. And it should not occur. And it's definitely all an ethical violation. So that's what I wanted to say. I'm sorry I'm a little terse, but I'm in great pain, and I would politely put all this in more articulately, and I would like the chance just to show the board alternative numbers and alternatives. That's it. Thank you so much.
Take care of your wrist.
Since we've taken that public comment, is it an appropriate time for, because, why should we torture you any longer, right?
Exactly. It's pretty appropriate because you actually touched upon this. So I'll probably switch over to 7812, actually. Here. Just talking about the whole process with the limitations on lot mergers and then subsequent splits. Again, I would say that unless this was a Florida law, I don't think it's any business of Sewalls Point, town of Sewalls Point, to limit what a property owner does with their property. If they want to combine it and split it a dozen times for whatever reason that may be, they should be allowed to do it. I think that should just be stricken out of there of 7812D. That should just be stricken out. I certainly understand the other point I was trying to go through was 7811E, which was also just discussed. I definitely understand that someone's trying to sneak in a development without doing an actual development plan. But I do think that this could probably be done a little bit more in depth to allow for people with large plots to be able to split it at one point in time and say, well, this part we're going to split, but for no plans on doing anything with this property for a long time, that's not being split. But maybe in 20 years, the subsequent family member or owner will want to do something with it at that time. So I think this could be worded a little bit better to prevent the loophole of someone doing a development with lot splits, but still allowing someone with, say, a 5, 6, 10 acre lot to say, I want to separate 2 acres here, and I want to split 2 acres here into some lots, sell those off, and then I'm splitting a big section here that could be future we may want to split it and sell off some units there. But, to me, that makes sense in terms of actually slowing development, so you don't have like all the lots built all at once, and then there's no future there. So perhaps that could be worded in a sense, and I know no one else may do it, but whether it's a law or not is a whole other thing. But it could be done in a fashion that would allow the slow development of one large lot over time by either one property owner or subsequent property owners without falling into the trap of being now stuck with a larger lot that you can't do anything with.
Has been approved for and received.
But definitely 12D should be stricken out in that, and I think 11E, we can maybe get a little more,
11E.
maybe some other sort of limitation to prevent someone from just developing with lot splits, but still allow some freedom for someone
further subdivided.
Plot of land.
Thank you. Stephanie, did you have anything? Not yet? Okay. Raise your hand when we get there.
Okay, and I do want to say, for the record, if you have somewhere else to be, you can put your comments in, on the piece of paper, email it to me, and your comments will be part of the record, even if you don't have to say it here, even if you don't want to stay to the end to say it tonight. Because the purpose of that form is so that public could write their comments, and then we would have that on the matrix, and then we would present it at the second reading. So you're welcome to stay, but don't feel like you have to get your comments in. You can just email them to me. Okay?
Well, since we're on the topic, can I ask about those two clauses, E and D? Because that is a weird statement at the end that says shall not be further subdivided. I mean, maybe it should be clarified with outside of the, well, not the spirit of this entire document. I don't know the wording that I want to use here, but as long as the land adheres, to lot size, why would it matter how many times it's subdivided?
Well, for what I said, and I don't know how we could reword it, but it prevents someone from avoiding the site plan approval process. Like, let's say they ultimately want 6 lots.
It's an iterative process, right?
They could just keep doing lot splits until they have 6 lots. So I can look at other.
Why wouldn't they? I mean.
Why would they want to avoid the site plan process?
No. Why would we not care as long as it adheres to the ordinance? It just so happens that they have a larger piece of land, and as long as each subdivided piece adheres to our size requirements, why would we prevent any particular lot to be further subdivided?
like I said, all the ordinances that I looked at have that in there.
Okay, I
And
just don't
and
understand
and
that
it's
last
in there
sentence,
for the-
shall not be eligible for a lot split. That-
Right.
On both of those sentences, shall not be eligible for further subdivision. It seems,
I can look at, I've not seen one that's not in.
I mean, I'm happy to hear the
But
answer,
like-
I just don't understand why
But-
it's there.
But it is a policy decision, but I caution you that you could build a subdivision by just keep doing lot splits and avoid the application process. And you want people to follow the process.
With what property are we going to create that? Glenn, this has happened twice where let's call it matriarch, patriarch, had expanded, and then the kids inherited, and then they split. And I know Todd Thurlow represented one and Terry McCarthy the other. Do you remember those? I mean,
One of them sounds familiar.
yeah. So I just think it could be done on a case-by-case basis rather than the LDR saying it shall never be done, but.
Well, I'm under the impression that if they're going to do a development, like the one that came to us before, you're worried about roads, and then all the neighbors have their input. And so I see, maybe, this has to be looked into further before I would support changing that. That would have to really be studied. The other one, the consolidation and the back and forth, but we were all very particular about the subdivision, what it was going to look like, and Commissioner Kurzman was worried about the drainage. When we're talking about drainage and stormwater, these are things we have to consider, so
All
if you.
those are valid points. My point is, why does any particular case, once it happens, can never be considered again?
Right,
That's-
right.
I think you solve the whole
No, I-
problem just by deleting the end of each of those sentences. I mean, there's nothing
I
wrong with
guess,
the clause.
again, I
The end of the
have
sentence
to
is weird.
think about it farther, but like if you had a big parcel and you just did it 1 week after the other, there you would have one parcel and then you had 5 lots the next week or something.
But each of those lots would adhere to the ordinance.
Would it? I don't know.
Well, they'd have to, or they couldn't get through the
Like,
process.
do we have ordinances that cover all that? Like, well,
Well, we have, we have a building,
This is why I have
we
to
have a
thought
building
about-
official, and we have a town manager, we have a board. These things have to.
Yeah, it has to be
I mean,
considered.
Mr. Daniels, I'm sure, looks like you'd like to weigh in on this.
Yeah, I would just like to put it in context, okay?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've already gone through with lot splits that, if they want to come back to you all and go through the proper channels to do that, we're just saying administratively, you're only going to be able to do this one time. But they can come in and come before you and make that change. We're trying to
Well,
keep,
that-
if you have a full development
I
for
get
the
it.
reasons that,
Then put a time limit on it. Don't put it for time immemorial, right?
well, or, what.
Say within
Go
a
through
year.
another hoop, is that a big deal? I don't know. I guess because they have to come back to 5 elected officials and prove why this is
Well,
important.
they don't ever have to come to
And I
us,
think
though. They
that's
go
a
to the
valid
building
point
official.
that Commissioner Campo brings up, but, I just think, that's something that would probably be approved by you all readily. But again, I just wanted to add that when you keep asking why, I think it's just to keep
Yeah, that
from
makes
circumventing that development process. That's all.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ask why. I meant to say, can we just scratch that last sentence to fix it? And you could fix it also by saying, within any given calendar year or something, I mean.
Sure.
I don't know about that.
Go ahead, Go ahead, Bonnie, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Dave, did you have something?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. Yeah, before this, as I mentioned in the past, I've sat on the planning board for many years, and one of the things, if somebody did want to go in and, let's say, they had a 10-acre, in this case, maybe a 10-acre parcel of land, what they would do, you could still put an application in, even though you're not going to develop right now.
Right, and I was going to bring that up.
Yes, so what you would do then is you'd put in for like the 6 homes, and let's say you want to develop 2, as you mentioned, that's not a problem. And what you do is you keep the others open until you're ready to develop them. But I think you have to renew permits every so many,
Couple of years.
couple of years it might be. However, so it's not impossible what you're asking for. Right?
You would just come and do a development application is what you do.
Right.
And that would come before you. And that would ensure that they follow a process and they don't circumvent the process. And I think that was the point the manager was trying to make, is they can bring you an application, but they'd have to come to you. They couldn't just go to the building official and keep splitting. Because then you don't see it, I don't see it, they just split
That's
it.
my only concern,
Yeah.
is that we don't see it.
Yeah, but you would see it in the way of a development application. So I would recommend that you keep it in there, but maybe we could change the wording so it's clear that you could bring a development application. And like you said, phase it. Like, let's say you have a large piece of land and you want to split it into 5 lots, so each child gets a lot. You would have to have an application, but then you get it done.
I don't think it's anything that's tough to do, and
No.
definitely not impossible. And it's happened a lot, especially when you had farmers and stuff, they would divide up the farm, and eventually, you know, there comes a time where they no longer want to farm, the family decides they're going to sell, but at least it's all in place where they can develop it. And it tells you what you could do, and then they'd go in, and they would later on sell it to a developer or develop themselves and hire subs to come in. So that's how it would work out.
Yeah, we're just trying to make sure people go through the process, and that's why it's in there. Okay, did we beat that dead horse? So we have those comments recorded, and we'll answer, each comment that is made will have an answer, noted, changed, or not changed, before the next meeting. Okay, so where are we? Are we on number 19?
Page 3.
Page 3, number 19? Yes? Okay. Administrative changes to plats, I think we've already talked about that. I think we've already talked about plat approval process, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Development standards, we just renumbered and removed the references to minor subdivision because that's not a process anymore. Number 22 is page 8 of the unified document. Okay, so one of the things that April and I've struggled with, I don't know about April, is we don't really have the notice process in the code. So we put it in the code, but the one thing we did not put in the code, and this was at the advice of the attorney, is, you know, as Mr. Daniels referred to, how long before the meeting do you have to advertise? That's all in state law. And we don't want to put that in the code in case the law changes, like the 7-day notice, the 14-day notice, et cetera. So we have the public hearing notice and the notice by mail and notice by publication. One of the things I didn't put in there, because I did not think you wanted this in there, but we could add it, is the notice with the sign. You know those ugly signs that people have to put up in front of their property when they do a development application? Why is that needed? It's an expense to the developer. You're a small town. We could add it back, but that would put a sign in front of the development, you know, if there's something coming before you as a hearing. But I could not find a requirement by law for that sign. So you do a notice of the hearing in the newspaper, and you do a mailing to people within 300 feet. So I wanted to point that out in case you want that sign, and then we could have standards for how that sign would look. And then if we do that, I would strongly recommend that you require them to move it, because drive around town, way after hearing notices, those signs are still up for years.
Tina wouldn't let that happen.
Exactly.
We have an ordinance that covers that.
Okay.
Has to be removed after.
Naturally.
Okay, so no sign, is that what I'm hearing?
I'm good with no sign.
Okay. So that's basically, and it's making sure that that the applicant knows the advertising cost they have to pay the town back. 7833 was taken out, but it was moved. So it's really not taken out, it's just moved from that section. Okay, we are moving on to.
I'm good down to line item 31 unless someone's got questions before then.
So we're looking at page 4.
Site plans?
This,
We talked about notice by mail, notice by publication, advertising cost.
Quick question, definition of site versus plat.
Where do you,
No, I see them and they kind of,
a site plan is a development application,
a site versus,
right?
okay.
And so we would review a site plan application, and then once that's been approved, then it comes to you as when they approve the plat. That's how it's written. And
So
that
the plat is an approved site plan?
the site plan has been, we've recommended approval, then it comes to you for your approval of the site plan and the plat. And we give you, this is why it should be approved, and this is why it shouldn't be approved, based on the code.
Do you understand what I'm, it's not that big a deal.
That's like a map.
Uh-huh.
You're signing off on the site plan is the whole, the development itself.
Site plan is the development
Talk about a
approval.
little bit more about the details, like a site plan has, to me, more details on it than
Exactly.
the plat, so maybe talk about that a second.
Okay, so a site plan application, you'd have to have engineering to show that your
Okay,
drainage is in
okay.
place. You'd have to have a survey to make sure
Uh-huh.
you know where everything is. I'm trying to think of what else, I mean, there's,
No, that, and that's good, that's more detailed, and then the plat is,
that's just the legal document to file it, the plat.
okay. That,
Right.
that'll do.
Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah, it does.
And we did put in there everything that you have to submit. We did put a pre-application process. I think that's very important. It provides upfront information to the person who is going to develop about what they need. And it gives us a clue what they're planning to do before they submit it. Because what if they have a plan that's not going to work? They don't want to spend thousands of dollars in engineering for a plan that's not going to work. So we try to nip that in the bud in the pre-app process. Okay. We talked about the retainer deposit. That's just to make sure you get reimbursed for any outside review services.
Okay, let's talk about that. Would you check, that would be page 10, section 7820? Okay. I'd like for you to get back to me on.
I'm sorry, are we finished on page 4?
I'm just jumping to what you had talked about. She
Pre-application.
Still on page 4.
Site plans.
Number 29.
Bonnie brought up the topic of retainer deposit, so that's why I jumped in. So I could get back, but you brought that up for a reason.
I did.
Okay.
I did. Because in some municipalities, developers will put in an application, they put in their deposit, they go through the process, and then the town can't recoup their expenses because they're going to become like a, what's the word? A bill collector. But if you have a retainer process that has to be replenished, it gives the town the ability to say, we're going to stop reviewing until you replenish because we want to make sure we get reimbursed. And then at the end, any money that hasn't been expended goes back to the applicant. But it makes sure that you get the money up front as the town, and you're not chasing a developer.
The question that I have is, does the city of Stewart and Martin County require that? Because my information is they don't.
And
you
that
check
is,
on that?
that is because they have application fees up front. And I mean application fees of tens of thousands of dollars. So they get it up front in the application fee, whereas you're doing it via deposit. And the other difference is they have employees, not contractors. So they
It doesn't make,
well,
because we're going to pay you or someone like you, right?
well, if you have an employee, you're paying benefits and such. I mean,
So we pay you a lot, we pay them a lot. What difference does that make?
sure. We spent time on this.
Okay.
And I'm used to having the retainer involved in some of the
Okay.
communities I've been in, and that's really the reason. And we went back and looked at the fees that we never collected because of expenses that we
In
had
Sewalls
through
Point?
legal, in Sewalls Point.
Okay.
Legal and from planning expenses. There could even be other things we didn't recoup, but I just specifically looked at that. So we don't want to be in the bill collection business.
Yeah, so when you reviewed that, you came up with some significant examples?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good, good to
So,
know, good to
you know,
know.
that's why we're instituting this. It doesn't
Gotcha.
cost anybody any more or any less, but this way, we get the money up front, the expenditures for legal and for planning services and whatever else, engineering, they get taken out of there. We can show all the bills that were paid and everything else, and whatever is left in that account goes right back to them. There's no interest that's made on it or anything, but it's just a better way of doing business.
That sounds like good business practice to me.
Yeah, so, yeah, engineering, legal, planning, et cetera. Okay, so we're good? You understand the retainer part, yes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You understand the pre-application, it's just a conceptual layout, it's not detailed plans. This is so they can give the concept and make sure it's something that they want to move forward with a formal application, and that's done many, many places. Yes? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, so where would that put us? Thank you. Site plan and development application requirements, that's just what you have to submit with an application, and those things are standard.
Can I ask a quick question about that? Only because I have some personal experience. Under utilities, it says location of irrigation wells.
We took that right out of, yeah, but we took that right out of
I
another.
feel like they're hard to find until you try to go find them. Right? I don't know.
I
That's just
think
my-
that that's part of the survey process, though. I think,
Yeah.
no?
I don't know. We've
I
talked
believe
about
it
a
is
well
in the
and,
survey. Survey has everything detailed. I'm not a land surveyor, so
That's-
I
yeah,
can't
it's
speak
not a
to
big
that.
deal.
But we did take that from another municipality. And why do we have 3 copies with building official, engineer, planner? It's just so we have enough full-size plans to review it.
one other question about the requirement, the tree removal and protection.
Mm-hmm.
And it says all protected trees to be removed. Does that mean like the trees that are in the blueprint?
So you do a tree survey to see what's there.
Right,
And other applicants have done that. It just
right.
is putting.
And so the protected trees to be removed are the ones that would be allowed to be removed, which would be in the
Would have to
blueprint of
be
a home or
allowed
a.
to be
Okay.
removed. You're right.
I'm just clarifying that.
Because we would not want you to remove native trees if you didn't need to.
Right. I thought maybe
The
that could
junk
be,
you can remove.
we're very tree, centric, and that's just kind of broad. All protected trees to be removed. I don't know. I feel like it could.
We could say Florida native trees. We could reword that, and maybe not say, probably
Yeah.
protected is the wrong word.
I mean, just whatever we can do to show our tree love.
Tweak that and say Florida natives, or we could use a standard. Landscape architects have a list they go by. I happen to know a landscape architect. I can ask him how to word it so it's broader and not.
All trees are equal, but some are more equal than others.
The natives are better than the exotic invasives. Yes, you're right. Exotic invasives, we don't care about. Okay, so are we still on line 35? Okay, are we good to move?
Yes.
Okay, final development order. This is a process for the town commission to consider all final development orders after the staff has provided a review and a staff report. And this review is considered quasi-judicial. And that was, that wording was recommended by Susan to have that quasi-judicial in there. And that's just part of the process. But that would allow you to look at staff's report to see if you agree with me or disagree with me. We would give you a recommendation, but you would be the final say on those final development orders. 37 is just renumbering. 38, final plat review and approval. We added final development order and removed specifications in any, those 2 words. $39, page 18. So that's, that evidence of approval, remember how I said we took it out and we moved it? That's what we did, we moved it from another section, and we replaced major subdivision with final plat, added a resolution, so you have a document to provide evidence of that. So that was moved and minorly changed, minor change. 7888 shows an expiration date.
We skipped over one. It would be 7821, page 13. G.
Scale drawing of the site.
Yes. I've been told that that's a little overkill, 500 feet of any property line of the site.
I agree. So we can change that to 300 feet or 100 feet?
200.
Huh?
Martin County is 200.
Okay, we can do that. And I think that's appropriate, given the size of the town. So scale drawing of the site, land within 200 feet? Okay. Okay. Are we moving on back to 19? Are we on page 19? Oh, no, we haven't done administrative deviations. This just gives the building official.
Bonnie, can I back up?
Yes.
Did you do line item 40 yet?
40?
Yeah, I had a question.
Oh, expiration, I'm sorry, yes, 7888.
I had a question. It sounds like they're not allowed to ask for an extension until it's actually expired, and I'm wondering why, shouldn't they be able to ask for an extension before it expires? It doesn't make sense to me.
That's just the way that this other model ordinance was written. I don't know that there's a,
That's a good point.
so we could
'Cause maybe-
change that.
Yeah,
We-
maybe they're going to know, 60 days ahead of time, hey, we ain't going to make it, and we have some good reasons, why don't we get the extension now? Why do we wait until it expires? Doesn't make
No, I
any
agree,
sense.
I agree, we can change that.
Catch.
Okay.
Yep. And like I said, I took this from another ordinance, but it doesn't make sense, so you're right.
I mean, maybe we can put 30 days in there.
But
or
we do
60
need to
days.
leave the burden of proof into the developer why they need an extension.
Oh, I agree with that.
Okay, okay. So we're leaving that in, but we're taking out that you have to wait
We're
till it
going on
expires to
now,
ask for an extension.
41's going to be next.
Okay. How are we doing, Heather?
We're good.
Okay,
We're on, I think,
we're on page line item 41. Administrative deviations, which is 78-89. This new section is to authorize the building official to grant minor deviations of setbacks under limited circumstances. Those limited circumstances are listed in A. And I don't think the 4 inches is in another place. But this is to provide ADA accessibility, allow replacement of stairs and decks. So it gives him some leeway to make some administrative deviations. And I did notice a typo, so I put my comment in there. Is that it provides the criteria for granting those as well. But it puts that authority with the building official, which is by design, so it doesn't have to come to planning. Are we good with that? Yes? And number 42 was recommended by the town attorney to have an appeals process. And I think this is required by law. If you deny if someone gets denied by the town or by the building official, they have an appeals process to follow. And that was wording we took from the attorney. I did not write that. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Do we have an appeals process? Yes? Okay. The next line item is 40, thank you. We renumbered, okay, so that's all that is. The next,
I'm sorry, the appeals process, how does it, where is the appeal applied to?
Thanks.
The circuit court in Martin County.
Circuit Court in Martin County, Florida, in a manner accepted by Florida statutes and rules of court, and that was just written by the attorney. I think that's just the typical
Why-
appeals process. I think that's, and
By the time we get here, have they already appealed to the commission?
that's if the commission denies it, yes.
Okay, all right.
No, so it would go with.
I mean, this sounds like it's going to lead us to a court battle. I mean, if you're trying to keep from getting sued,
The appeals process is going to?
possibly.
No, that prevents you, that gives them
An out.
that gives them, I think I think we have to have that in there. Susan specifically said you have to have an appeals process. Due process of law. So this tells them where they go if you tell them no.
Yeah, they always have to have an appeal. Yes.
I want them to accept it when we tell them no, but okay.
Not everybody's going to accept your decision, and I think it is required. And I think that actually keeps you from getting sued because you have an
I'm
appeal
not sure
process.
how, but okay. I'll take your word for it.
Well, no, that's Susan, not me. That was
Glenn
the
went to the
legal
bathroom.
edition. Line 44, when you did the comp plan amendment, we specifically heard that that requirement for River Road would be taken out, so it was taken out of the LDR. So we struck it all together.
Does reserve just mean there used to be an ordinance
Yeah.
there and now there's not?
It
Okay.
just keeps me from having to renumbering.
Okay.
If you just make reserved, that's all it means.
Okay.
So if you wanted to add a code down the road, you have that number available now.
So can we talk about that for a second? And I
Sure.
know it passed in the comprehensive plan, but with this latest storm and the choke point of North Sewalls Point Road being absolutely closed, that might be something that we regret someday, having no egress from North Sewalls Point Road. And, you know, there's a lot of people that just were not able to use their property. But that's already been done with the comp plan. Why does the LDR need to address that? Or, I mean, do you know, you don't know the history of that? I mean, that was a long,
It was and I do, in fact, I know when it was. It was 1977.
Yeah.
Because that's in there. It's been in there since 1977. And there was much public input and I think input from the commission to take it out of the comp plan as a requirement.
but it was.
So why
in-
would you want it in the LDR? That's the question.
But it was in the plan that there was a requirement for that development to extend River Road. And that
That's right.
existed this whole time.
Since 1977, correct.
And just recently, we alleviated that. Yeah.
When
I mean,
through the comp plan
Okay,
process,
all right.
yes. Now, because you took it out of the comp plan, do you have to take it out of the LDR? That's a policy decision. No, well, they
the whole
wouldn't-
reason we're doing this
I
is
don't
that
think
they
the
don't
comp
count.
plan specifically said that you couldn't connect the road. It just took the requirement out. So you can have something in the LDR as long as it doesn't conflict with the comp plan. However, I believe that you would get some public outcry because it was specifically told to take it out of the comp plan and they wanted it out of the LDR.
Okay, I just
And
thought,
so taking that out means you can't make the developer connect it. That's what it means. It doesn't mean, they do not have to do it
right.
as a
All right.
requirement.
I
Okay?
think, I think what's done is done at that point.
Okay,
Right.
so that's, we understand that, okay.
Line
45. Applicability, we just updated the terms to be consistent. We're not talking about subdivisions, we're talking about developments. Okay, here we go, number 46. This is the thing that I think Commissioner Campo wanted me to point out. This is a reference to the stormwater runoff for quality treatment to require that projects carry out Section 52-24. Section 52-24, I believe, was approved in April or May, which strengthened your requirements for water quality and storage volume, and that was done through the town engineer. This is just reminding people that they need to go to that section and follow that. And that's to strengthen the drainage, as Commissioner Kurtzman has mentioned. And that was also requested through, I think, the town manager also.
Got it.
Told me to make sure I put that in there. Are we good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Last page.
Last page.
Holy.
47. We removed the residential estate classification because you are now not required to do that to build a guest house. Number 48, we removed the term servants' quarters from the terminology because we think it's antiquated. Okay, here we go. Minimum enclosed living area. I'm sure I'll get questions about this.
Excuse me, I just have a quick question. The accessory dwelling, explain again why it's pretty much like the same verbiage, and just explain why it's in two separate sections. It's practically this, there's just a few things that are different. I actually don't understand why it's not exactly the same, but why are they in two different sections?
Because when the way it was previously, there was a section that you had to, at first they had a section about the setbacks, and then there was another section of code that referenced that you must have 27,500 square feet of land, and you must request a residential estate classification.
How do they
We
differ?
took that out so that if somebody wants to build a guest house, they can pull a building permit. They don't need to come to the commission and get that separate
Okay.
classification.
Do you think we even, since you took out the part about that references setbacks and the residential estate zoning, I mean, it's really, I compared it, because in the ordinance, it's right next to each other. There's just some wording that's slightly different, but it's pretty much the same thing. Wow.
Why wouldn't we make it the same?
Are you saying the name guest house and accessory
No,
dwelling?
78-80, excuse me, 78-8 and 82-261 are pretty much the same paragraph, except for violations of this section shall be a Class D violation punishable. as
Well,
the-
one's in zoning and one's in
Right.
land development.
So
I
that-
can look at the, you think it's redundant? Is that what you're
I mean, you know better, I mean, maybe they need to be in both places. I don't really know. I'm just asking why it's pretty much the same
We will
paragraph.
check it, but it may not be identical, Commissioner.
It's, I've already, the non-identicalness is the last sentence of 82-261, which is violations of this section shall be a Class D violation. And then the only other parts are, it says, the first sentence, one says residentially zoned property may obtain permission, and one says residentially zoned parcel of land may apply for a building permit. But to me, those things are essentially the same.
Let's double check that.
Yeah, I need to double
Okay.
check it because I think one might be process and one might be the zoning for it.
Yeah, maybe there should, I just wanted to know why
There might be
they're
a
both
reason
there.
they're both places, but if they're redundant, we will look at
Okay.
that. But I'm sure you want to know about the size of the, the living.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about that. Right now, the way your code is written, the minimum enclosed living area is 2,000 square feet. Guest houses are typically not 2,000 square feet, so we need to exempt them from that requirement because it is living space. The size and the minimum size is a policy decision. I started with 350 because I believe by Florida building code, and Jack's not here to back me up, but I believe it's 300 square feet. Like, there's tiny houses out there.
Yep.
Florida building code doesn't let you go below, I think, 300 square feet.
You only get one, so.
You only get one,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
But we're saying what is the minimum? So that we don't want the minimum to be 2,000 because that's really intended for a single-family home. Guest houses are smaller. The one I have for my dad is 600 square feet. And it's perfectly fine for someone who's 92 years old. You don't want them to have a lot of feet. But you also want to have a minimum so that someone's not building a little, I don't know,
Lemonade stand.
Exactly. But I could bend on the minimum size. I could make it whatever you want it to be, but it needs to, you need to exempt the guest houses from that 2,000. And
Would
I
it make
can
sense
keep
to
it.
just follow the Florida law? Or the Florida building code?
I will check with Jack. I'm pretty sure it's 300. Do you want it to be that small?
I think it is 300.
I mean, whatever, it's not my,
I was going to say 400, but
well, then we're just kind of picking numbers, you know? I think if you follow the Florida building code, then at least there's.
And I believe that's 300, but I'd
but
have
I
to
think
check
Sewell's
with Jack.
Point's going to be unique, right?
I mean, you're not,
Tiny house?
We don't, yeah, but I don't know that we
You
really want
you can
tiny
make it
houses in
whatever you
Sewell's
want it
Point.
to be. It's a policy
I think we'd
decision.
want larger structures in Sewell's Point, not smaller ones.
But you only get one.
And you can only have one, yes, that is correct, with lots of trees around it.
Might as well make.
It's gonna be wonderful.
Build it, I guess.
Yeah, well, okay, so yes, as the manager pointed out, it cannot be more than 50% of the main house. But one of the comments I received during,
That seems more realistic to me.
That's on the
that's
maximum
maximum.
side.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
minimum.
Oh, this is minimum.
we're talking
So
minimum
where
right
did
now.
350 come from?
So the Florida building code, I think the minimum is 300. And I'd have to check with Jack, but I'm pretty sure it's 300 square feet living space by Florida building code.
Fine with
And I thought, well, maybe you want to be a little bit more than the minimum because you're Sewell's Point, but it is completely up to y'all. I really don't have strong feelings. Yep.
Just to try to help you visualize 300 square feet, the condex boxes that they have, that they put on job sites, that's 300 square feet, the regular size ones. So, if that helps or hinders you, I just wanted to throw that out for you.
When I first got married, I lived in a guest house behind my main house, which was 400 square feet, and it was pretty small. So
What part of Mesopotamia was that?
Delray Beach, Mesopotamia.
20 by 20.
I say follow the Florida
20 by
code.
20, yeah.
Yeah, I like
Oh, but
Kaya's idea.
16,000 for now.
Let's go, what, 350,
So
something
you're-
like that?
That's
they're-
fine. That's what it says, it's 350.
I just said if he followed the Florida, say follow Florida, then we never have to think
I
about
don't
it.
trust those guys.
So you are, so there might be a house that's 1,500 square feet out there, but they were grandfathered in. The current minimum is 2,000. And somebody will ask you that.
Yeah, you have it written here before, 1,500 before 2001.
Right. So if somebody asks you, how did they get it, it's because they were grandfathered in. Thank you, Tina. So where are we going with the minimum of the guest house?
Sounds like some conversation up here, 350 would work.
That's fine the way it is.
So we're leaving it? Okay, okay.
350.
Last but not least, line 50. This was added, are we moving on to the
Yeah,
last?
yeah.
Okay.
We're just going to talk.
Last
this
but
for about
not
half an hour,
least
so.
is the new definition for temporary fence. The reason why
Doesn't
this
matter
is
what
in
it
here
is.
was a request from the building official, because the building official did not have anything in the code that could define how long is the temporary fence for, how do we get them to take it down, because temporary fences are not pretty. They're temporary, so they're not going to be attractive like you like your town to look. So you want to have something in your code to make sure they have an active building permit, so that somebody doesn't come and they're let's say they're clearing the land, they put up a fence, a temporary fence, which is ugly, and they haven't done anything in 6 months, they don't have an active building permit. How does the building official have anything to say about telling them that they have to take it down? This allows him to say, you don't have an active building permit, remove your temporary fence, you can't leave it up indefinitely. And I hate to tell you this, but we have another, so we still have to go through the ordinances. And what I would suggest is that each of those, you schedule the second reading, and you recommend that staff makes adjustments based on the comments that we made in this. So just say, approve ordinance 446 with the changes noted. Approve 447 with the changes noted. And that we know that on the second reading, each of those is going to be different based on what you've told me to do. Does that make sense? And each of these tells you which ordinances are going to change.
So,
I don't-
I'm sorry, item G of that last one.
Oh, sorry.
Am I reading that wrong?
Are you on the last page?
Yes, well,
3.
23 or 24.
You want to use
Item
hardwire?
G.
Frank?
Well, no, but I see that it's not permitted is scratched out. So I'm trying to figure out what this item, this whole paragraph, what this
No,
sentence says.
Go before, it, a few words before it says are prohibited.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you. Okay.
And what I did there on G is I added other dangerous fences that you don't want.
All right.
You don't want
Got it.
people to have broken glass or spikes,
Yeah.
What about-
because they're dangerous.
What about Crayola crayon picket fences?
Oh, be careful.
She has no idea.
So, Mr.
Board
Mayor-
on board, I think I don't know. You have fence standards here, and that's already in your code. So I don't know about that.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Please.
so Bonnie just gave you one option, which is to consider approving each of those 3 ordinances with all the changes you discussed tonight. Or if you feel like you need to digest this a little bit and see them in writing, you could have first reading at December 13th. The downside, obviously, is that would push your second reading till your meeting in January. And your zoning in progress moratorium ends the end of December. So if you wanted that additional time to review all these changes, because there's also a lot of questions, there were changes and questions, then my suggestion would be you could consider going to first reading on December 13th, second reading your first meeting in January, direct staff to bring back a resolution extending your zoning progress for another 30 days at the most. It's probably only going to need 15 days, because I think your meeting in January is, check what date is which day?
Wait,
The
so
10th. So
if we do that, do we
that's kind
have
of a
to do?
different option, because I know you've gone through a lot of changes tonight. If you're comfortable approving it, as Bonnie said, with the changes, fine.
Scheduling the second reading.
If you want to schedule the second reading for January 10th instead of December 13th, your call.
But let me just make sure, if we do if you say we move the first reading to December, we'd have to have another LPA meeting, correct? Because the LPA has to do the first reading.
Right, but that would just be presumably very short LPA meeting.
A lot
since-
shorter than tonight, I'm sure.
Since we just went through it all.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
I'll make a motion to, given the size and the number of changes we had, to come back for another reading of this, to give people time to digest, and if there are public comments about some of the things we said, to be able to articulate those.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? I think it's a good idea, because it wasn't only changing word for word, there were also some things we're going to go back and check on.
Policy
I think this is
change.
the right way to do it.
Yeah, many changes. Yes.
April, would you call the roll, please?
And
Board
one
Member
more question.
Campbell?
Does that include the extension of the moratorium until past that January 10th deadline, which would be another 10 or 15 days? So
That's
nobody's,
not part of my motion, I don't,
Well, you guys were the one,
I pushed it this way, but I guess that the next date falls where it falls.
You could take it in two pieces.
take it in two pieces,
Yeah,
okay.
take it in
Yeah.
two pieces.
Yeah.
So call the question.
Okay. Now you can call the roll.
Board Member Campo,
Aye.
Board Member Fender,
Aye.
Board Member Mayfield,
Yes.
Chair Tom Peck,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kurzman.
Yes.
Okay, is there
So
a
that-
second motion to handle the zoning in progress?
So again, the concern is you've had the zoning in progress that I think ends December 31st. I'm not sure if that's the exact date.
Oh,
120 days. We could bring it back December 13th.
We-
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Can we?
Because it may be a little more, we may still be within the 120 days on January 10th.
Glenn, I think it's a good heads up, but I think it's good to know what that date is, and I think
Yes.
that we are able to do that December 13th.
Okay.
So,
We will know that by
good
then.
heads up.
But you guys did a lot of work tonight, a lot of discussion, a lot of changes.
Okay, are there any other,
Now we'll have a general meeting.
any other staff comments?
we got another meeting to go to.
No, sir? Okay. Any other board member comments?
No, you said the holiday thing is the 11th, a Sunday? Okay. Okay, just confirming.
Holiday party.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.